It was New Year's Eve, and the vibrant streets of New York City were alive with a festive spirit. Bright lights adorned every building, the sound of laughter filled the air, and families huddled together to welcome the year ahead. Among the bustling crowd was Barron Trump, who had stepped away from the spotlight to enjoy a quiet moment. Despite the joyous atmosphere, his sharp eyes caught something out of place: a woman sitting alone on a cold bench with tear-streaked cheeks. Drawn by an instinct to help, Barron approached her cautiously. Her name was Maria, and she looked utterly defeated, clutching a worn photograph in her trembling hands. The image showed a family: a man, a teenage boy, and a young girl smiling together. As Barron gently inquired, she revealed her heartbreaking story. Maria had been separated from her husband and 2 children after a series of tragic events. A devastating house fire had displaced them months ago, leaving them scattered across different shelters. In the chaos, Maria had lost contact with her family. Despite endless efforts to find them, she'd spent the last few months alone, haunted by the thought of celebrating the new year without her loved ones. Barron listened intently, his heart aching at her plight. He could see the raw pain in her eyes, the exhaustion of a mother yearning for her children. Without hesitation, he offered to help. Maria was hesitant at first, unsure if a stranger could make a difference. But something about Barron's sincerity gave her a glimmer of hope. Barron quickly sprang into action. With the resources at his disposal, he began making calls to shelters and community centers, describing Maria's family in detail. His determination was unwavering. Time was running out. It was already late evening, but Barron refused to give up. Meanwhile, Maria shared more about her children. Her son, Diego, was just 15, passionate about soccer and always wearing a cap backward. Her daughter, Sofia, was 10, with a love for drawing and a favorite stuffed bunny she never parted with. As Maria spoke, Barron could see her eyes light up with love and longing, even through her tears. The search was challenging. Some shelters were closed for the holiday, and others were overcrowded, making it hard to get information. Barron called in favors, reaching out to people who could expedite the process. He even asked his security team to spread out and physically search nearby shelters. The hours ticked by, but Barron's resolve only grew stronger. Finally, a breakthrough came. One of Barron's contacts confirmed they had seen a man matching Maria's description at a shelter in Brooklyn. He was with a teenage boy and a young girl who clung to a stuffed bunny. Barron's heart raced as he shared the news with Maria, who was overwhelmed with a mix of hope and disbelief. They hurried to the shelter, with Maria clutching Barron's hand tightly. The streets were quiet now, the city preparing for the midnight countdown. As they arrived, Maria's eyes darted around the crowded room, searching desperately. And then she saw them. Across the room stood her husband, Miguel, holding Sofia in his arms while Diego leaned against him. Maria let out a choked sob, her legs nearly giving way. Barron gently steadied her, and she began to move toward her family, her steps quickening until she broke into a run. The reunion was nothing short of magical. Maria threw her arms around her husband, her children clinging to her as if they'd never let go. Tears streamed down their faces as they held each other tightly, the pain of separation melting away in that moment of pure love. Barron watched from a distance, his own eyes glistening. He felt an indescribable warmth witnessing the family's joy, knowing he had played a part in bringing them back together. As midnight approached, the shelter staff and other residents gathered to celebrate. Someone turned on a small TV to watch the ball drop in Times Square. Maria's family, now whole again, stood arm in arm with Barron beside them. When the countdown began, Maria turned to Barron with tearful gratitude. "I don't have enough words to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "You didn't just reunite us, you gave me my life back." Barron smiled humbly. "You don't need to thank me. Family is everything, and you deserve to be together." As the clock struck midnight, cheers erupted around them. The reunited family shared a heartfelt group hug, and Maria's children turned to Barron. Diego, the shy teenager, said, "Thank you for giving us back our mom." Sofia, holding her stuffed bunny, added, "You're like a real-life hero." Barron knelt down to Sofia's level and gently replied, Sometimes heroes are just people who care enough to help, and you all deserve this happiness." The night ended with a sense of profound fulfillment. Barron left the shelter, his heart full, knowing he had made a lasting difference in their lives. Maria's family had a fresh start, a new year filled with hope and endless possibilities. And as the first dawn of the new year broke, Barron walked the quiet streets with a renewed sense of purpose, reminded of the power of compassion and the incredible impact of a simple act of kindness. The shelter quieted as the New Year's festivities settled, leaving a warm glow of joy in its wake. The reunited family was still tightly huddled together, as if afraid the moment was a fragile dream that might slip away. Maria's husband, Miguel, wiped his eyes and looked at Barron with deep gratitude. "I don't know who you are, young man," he began, his voice shaky. "But you've given us a miracle tonight. I can't imagine how much effort it took to find us. We owe you everything." Barron, who had been trying to keep a low profile, smiled softly. "You don't owe me anything. Seeing you all together again is enough for me." Diego, the teenage boy, stepped forward, his face reflecting a mix of shyness and admiration. "Mom talked about you," he said. "She said a kind young man promised to help her find us. I didn't believe it would happen, but you made it happen." Barron placed a reassuring hand on Diego's shoulder. "Sometimes when things seem impossible, a little hope is all we need to find our way back." The shelter staff began preparing beds for the night. Maria hesitated, looking at Barron. "You've already done so much, but I don't know how we'll make it from here. We've lost so much. Our home, our belongings, everything." Barron felt a pang in his chest. He had seen many people in need during his charitable work, but the despair in Maria's eyes was different. It wasn't just about material loss, it was the fear of failing her family again. "Maria," he said, his tone gentle but firm, "this is just the beginning. I'll help you rebuild. You don't have to do this alone." The next morning, Barron returned to the shelter with a plan. He had arranged for a temporary hotel stay for Maria's family, giving them a chance to rest and recover. As they packed their few belongings, Sophia clutched her stuffed bunny tightly and whispered to her mother, "Is this really happening? Are we going to be okay now?" Maria knelt down and cupped her daughter's face. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to be okay. Because of him." Barron overheard their exchange and felt a lump in his throat. He promised himself that he would not stop until they were truly secure. Over the next few weeks, Barron worked tirelessly behind the scenes. He connected Maria and Miguel with housing assistance programs and even reached out to a local community organization to help furnish their new apartment. Diego's school enrollment was expedited, and Sophia received a small art kit to reignite her love for drawing. When the day finally came to move into their new home, the family was overwhelmed with emotion. It wasn't a mansion, but it was warm, cozy, and most importantly, theirs. The children ran from room to room, their laughter echoing through the space. Miguel stood silently in the living room, tears streaming down his face. Maria turned to Barron, her voice breaking. "You've given us more than a home. You've given us hope. I don't know how we can ever repay you." Barron shook his head. "Seeing you all smile is all the thanks I need. Just promise me one thing: hold on to each other. Family is the greatest gift you'll ever have." As the months passed, the family began to rebuild their lives. Diego joined a local soccer team, finding a sense of belonging among his peers. Sophia's artwork blossomed, and one of her drawings, a heart surrounded by stars, was framed and hung in their living room. Miguel found steady work, and Maria began volunteering at the shelter that had once been her refuge, determined to help others as she had been helped. Barron stayed in touch, visiting often and quietly supporting them whenever they needed a hand. Each time he saw their progress, his heart swelled with pride. One day, as Barron arrived for a visit, Sophia ran up to him with a drawing in hand. "This is for you," she said shyly. The picture showed their family standing together, with Barron beside them. Above, Sophia had written in careful block letters, "Our guardian angel." Barron knelt down, his eyes misty. "This means the world to me, Sophia. Thank you." As New Year's Day approached once more, Maria invited Barron to join them for dinner. The table was filled with simple but delicious homemade dishes, and the atmosphere was filled with love and laughter. During the meal, Miguel raised his glass. "A year ago we were lost. Tonight we're home. None of this would have been possible without you, Barron. You've taught us that even in our darkest moments, kindness can light the way." Barron raised his own glass, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "To my family, and to new beginnings." The story of Maria's family spread throughout the community, inspiring countless others to step forward and help those in need. Barron, however, remained humble, never seeking recognition for his actions. As he walked home that night, snow gently falling around him, Barron reflected on the journey. He knew that he couldn't change the world on his own, but moments like these reminded him that even small acts of kindness could create ripples that changed lives forever. And in his heart, he carried the words Maria had once said, "You didn't just give us a home, you gave us hope." As the city celebrated the start of another year, Barron smiled, ready to carry that hope forward into whatever came next. The months that followed were transformative not just for Maria and her family, but for Barron as well. He found himself reflecting on the power of small actions and how they could ripple outward, touching lives in unexpected ways. What had started as a chance encounter at a shelter had become a story of resilience, love, and unyielding hope. One crisp spring afternoon, Barron stopped by Maria's new home to check in. As he knocked on the door, he was greeted by Sophia, who threw her arms around him. "Barron," she exclaimed, "guess what? I got a gold star at school for my art project." She led him inside, where her drawing a depiction of her family holding hands beneath a rainbow was proudly displayed on the refrigerator. "That's amazing, Sophia," Barron said, crouching down to her level. "You should be so proud of yourself." Maria entered the room, a warm smile on her face. "She's been talking about you all week," she said. "We all have. You've become a part of this family." Barron looked around at the cozy home, filled with signs of a life rebuilt. The air was filled with the scent of freshly baked bread, and laughter echoed from the living room, where Diego and Miguel were playing a board game. "This is all you," Barron said, gesturing to the room. "You made this happen. I just gave you a little nudge." Maria shook her head. "No, Barron, you gave us hope when we had none. That's something I'll never forget." Over time, Maria began sharing her story with others at the shelter, becoming a beacon of hope for families going through similar struggles. She would sit with them, offering words of encouragement and practical advice. "You don't have to do this alone," she would say, her voice steady and full of conviction. "There's always someone out there willing to help. You just have to hold on long enough to find them." Barron, inspired by her resilience, started thinking about how he could do more. He began working on a project to connect families in need with resources, leveraging his connections to build a network of support. One summer evening, as Barron was wrapping up a meeting about the project, he received a call from Maria. Her voice was filled with urgency, but also excitement. "Barron, you have to come over," she said. "Diego has something to show you." When Barron arrived, he found Diego in the backyard, surrounded by his soccer teammates. They were practicing for an upcoming tournament, their faces lit with determination and joy. "Barron," Diego called out, running over, "we made it to the finals, and I wanted you to be the first to know." Barron felt a surge of pride. "That's incredible, Diego. I'm so proud of you." Diego hesitated, then added, "I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. You believed in us when no one else did." Barron smiled. "You did the hard work, Diego. I just gave you a little push." As the years passed, Maria's family flourished. Miguel opened a small repair shop, Sophia's artwork was featured in a local gallery, and Diego earned a scholarship to a prestigious university. Each milestone was a testament to their strength and the support they had received. Barron remained a constant presence in their lives, celebrating their victories and offering guidance when challenges arose. One snowy New Year's Eve, Maria hosted a gathering at her home. The house was filled with friends, neighbors, and families from the shelter who had been touched by her story. As the clock approached midnight, Maria stood to make a toast. "A year ago, I never could have imagined we'd be here," she began, her voice trembling with emotion. "We were lost, broken, and afraid. But then Barron came into our lives and reminded us that even in the darkest times, there's always light." She turned to Barron, her eyes glistening. "You didn't just change our lives. You saved them. And for that, we will be forever grateful." The room erupted in applause, and Barron, though unaccustomed to such attention, stood and spoke. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about all of you, your strength, your resilience, and your love for one another. That's what makes this possible." As the clock struck midnight, the room filled with cheers and the sound of clinking glasses. It was a celebration not just of a new year, but of new beginnings and the unbreakable bonds of family and community. Later that night, as Barron walked home under the starlit sky, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. Helping Maria's family had been one of the most rewarding experiences of his life, and it had taught him an important lesson: the smallest acts of kindness could create the most profound changes. And as he looked ahead to the future, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue spreading hope, one family at a time. Sometimes it's the unexpected encounters that leave the deepest marks on our hearts. Barron's act of kindness not only helped a family rebuild their lives, but also inspired a ripple effect of love, hope, and resilience. This story is a powerful reminder that even in the face of hardship, compassion can bring people together and spark incredible change. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. Together, let's spread the message that kindness always has the power to transform lives.